back to another episode of Justice and Community Case Management, the podcast where we unpack the real-world challenges and rewards of working in community corrections as a case manager. My name's Hannah and I'm here with Mia, Amelia and Riley, and today's episode is a special one for all the new recruits joining Victoria Corrections Community Case Management team. And we'll be responding to questions sent in by listeners about two topics that show up repeatedly in this line of work: burnout and vicarious trauma. What are they? Why do they matter? And most importantly, why is it crucial for case managers to know how these issues affect them from their first day on the job? Our first question is from a Sam in Bendigo who asks, what exactly is burnout and why is it a problem? Great question to start us off. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical and mental exhaustion with symptoms such as increased anger, frustration, suspicion, excessive rigidity and inflexibility in practice, and it often has the presentation of someone suffering from depression. It generally occurs in 3 stages: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization and cynicism, and a decreased sense of personal accomplishment. And that's where the problem generally lies. When we feel less effective, our job satisfaction drops, and that can lead to poor decision making, lower productivity, and even mistakes. Emotional exhaustion can also make us cynical or detached, which doesn't just affect our well-being, it impacts the people we're trying to help, our teams, and even workplace culture. Over time, burnout contributes to absenteeism, high staff turnover, and physical or mental health issues, making it not just a professional issue, but a personal one also. Our next question comes from Annie in Geelong, who asks, I keep hearing about vicarious trauma as a case manager. What is it? Another important one to address. Vicarious trauma happens when we're exposed to our clients' trauma disclosures over time, often deeply personal and distressing accounts of abuse, violence, or hardship, which are given in the empathetic client-practitioner relationship that case managers build. This repeated exposure can change us on multiple levels: physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. These changes can alter how we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. Symptoms vary, but generally fall into 4 areas: intrusive thoughts or imagery, hyperarousal, avoidance behaviors, and negative shifts in thinking. When left unaddressed, vicarious trauma can lead to apathy towards clients, blurred boundaries, and poor decision-making, which again affects both professional performance and personal well-being, demonstrating how significant it is to address it in its early stages of development.
Thanks, Hannah. Now the focus will divert to the signs and causes of burnout and vicarious trauma. We've got a fantastic question from Sarah in Preston who wants to know what the causes and signs of burnout are. First, let's talk about the causes of burnout. We can generally categorize them into 3 main areas: work-related problems, lifestyle decisions, and individual characteristics. When we look at work-related problems, these usually involve excessive workload and demands, a lack of control and autonomy, and inadequate workplace environment. Beyond the immediate job, lifestyle factors can also heighten burnout, which can include poor work-life balance, insufficient sleep, and a lack of social support. Finally, individual characteristics can increase burnout. These include personality traits, pre-existing mental health, and employment in high-stress caring industries such as social work, where you're constantly exposed to others' suffering. Now, let's move on to the signs of burnout. Physically, burnout often presents as chronic fatigue and exhaustion, and increased illness and decreased immunity. Emotionally, you might experience a loss of motivation and satisfaction, a constant feeling of failure, helplessness and hopelessness, and heightened irritability. Psychologically, a key symptom is detachment. Finally, behavioral and professional symptoms include a noticeable decline in productivity and performance, withdrawal from responsibilities and social activities, and a functional decline which can include increased absenteeism, lateness, disrupted interpersonal relationships, and the use of unhealthy coping mechanisms. Thank you so much for your call, Sarah, and I hope this overview gives you a clear understanding of the causes and signs of burnout. Our next question is from Josh in Melton, who wants to know what the causes and signs of vicarious trauma are. First, let's talk about the causes of vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma occurs through the empathetic engagement with the survivor's story. Through repeated empathetic listening to trauma stories, the case managers previously developed cognitive schemas, such as their beliefs about the world, can cause them to develop new negative schemas which can alter their view of the world, transforming a perception of a safe, caring environment into one that is dangerous or unsafe. Now let's move on to the signs of vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma can manifest through emotional, cognitive, behavioral, and physical symptoms and can impact a person in ways that are similar to trauma victims. Individuals may experience anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, irritability, apathy, cynicism, dejection, or overwhelming hopelessness, which is frequently accompanied with numbness or loss of enjoyment in daily activities. Cognitive impairments include difficulty concentrating, forgetfulness, self-doubt, racing thoughts, and hypervigilance, which frequently manifest as intrusive thoughts or images about the client's reports, even in the absence of direct experiences. Behaviorally, vicarious trauma can lead to withdrawal or isolation, relationship problems, poor self-care, appetite changes, destructive coping mechanisms, and increased need to control events, difficulty leaving work, and even aggressive outbursts. Finally, physically, vicarious trauma creates sleep problems, exhaustion, unexplained aches and pains, and less resistance to sickness. It is also important to note that vicarious trauma can alter one's worldview, sense of identity, meaning, safety, and security, eventually leading to burnout if not addressed. Thank you so much for your call, Josh, and I hope you and everyone listening now has a better understanding of the signs and causes of vicarious trauma.
I'd now like to shift focus from Mia to the well-being aspect of a case manager's role. It can be confronting to enter such a demanding job, which is why discussing ways to prevent burnout and vicarious trauma is so important. We have a question here from Miranda in Ballarat. What are some practical steps institutions can take to help prevent burnout and vicarious trauma? That is a very important question, Miranda. Institutions can reduce burnout by creating a trauma-informed, victim-centered environment that protects staff from emotional and psychological strain. Studies show that around 38% of social workers experience moderate to high levels of secondary traumatic stress and can often result in emotional exhaustion and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Organisations can focus on managing workloads, improving work environments, providing group support, and offering self-care resources. Agencies also have an ethical duty to prepare new staff, like yourselves, for the realities of trauma work by explaining potential risks and assessing resilience beforehand. Regular check-ins, well-being surveys, and ongoing training on self-care further strengthen support. By integrating this trauma-informed and evidence-based strategies, institutions can support staff well-being, enhance motivation, and improve the service quality, benefiting both employees and clients. I have another question here from Trish, located in Northcote. What are some practical steps an individual can take to help prevent burnout and vicarious trauma? Again, that is another great question and important to delve into as it applies to everyone in the helping professions. Individuals can prevent burnout by developing self-awareness, setting boundaries, and maintaining consistent self-care. Many professionals believe they must put their own needs aside to focus on clients, but that's often unrealistic. For social workers, using behavioural and physical strategies such as maintaining a balanced diet, exercising, or simply taking a short break can help manage stress. Talking with trusted colleagues about challenges can also normalise feelings, reduce isolation, and foster mutual support. Self-care involves recognising your limits and understanding that rest is not a sign of weakness, but of professionalism. By maintaining boundaries, reflecting regularly, and prioritising personal well-being, individuals can strengthen their resilience and preserve the empathy that is so essential in your line of work.
Our last question comes from Stephen in Brunswick. They ask, what practical steps can institutions and case officers take to overcome burnout and vicarious trauma? This is a really important question, Stephen. So as we've already heard, working in corrections or community case management is tough, and there really is no getting around that. And exposure to high stress and crisis situations really takes a toll on people and leads to burnout and vicarious trauma. The good news is there are practical steps both institutions and individual case officers can take to overcome this if it wasn't already preventable. For institutions, it starts with creating a supportive, trauma-informed environment. This could look like regular reflective supervision or debriefing sessions after a critical incident, like a violent episode or a parole violation. These sessions give staff a safe space to process what happened to them so that their stress doesn't just pile up over time. Agencies also need to make sure workloads are realistic. For example, not stacking multiple high-risk or emotionally draining cases back-to-back without giving a staff member appropriate recovery time. Training is another big one. Programs on trauma-informed care and resilience really help staff maintain empathy, handle secondary stress, and stay motivated in their work. Peer support is also key, and having more experienced staff members mentor newer staff members and share coping strategies can make a huge difference. On the individual side, case officers can take control of their own well-being through self-care and self-awareness, and even small routines like mindfulness, journaling, and exercising can help manage stress and keep your emotions balanced. And setting clear boundaries between work and personal life is also essential. This prevents burnout, and ongoing supervision or professional development can help catch early warning signs of burnout and trauma. So to answer the question, it's really about collaboration. The institutions build the safe, supportive systems, and the officers actively participate, use the resources, and communicate openly about their needs. When both these sides work together, it reduces burnout, helps manage vicarious trauma, and ensures staff stay resilient, compassionate, and effective, even in the toughest correctional or community settings. So I hope this answered your question, Stephen. And that marks the end of today's episode. We'd like to thank everyone for listening, and to everyone who sent in questions, we really appreciate your interest and engagement in this topic because it really is so important. And finally, we wish the best of luck to the new recruits of the Victoria Corrections Community Case Management Team. It's really important work you all are doing, and good luck in your new jobs. All right, bye.